Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gaming Lounge Podcast, episode 31. Once again, I'm your host, Sebastian, and I'm joined by Dory. How's everything going in this crazy, depressing week?
Yeah, wow. Nothing has happened really that's turned everyone's world upside down. Everyone's just having a great time. I think Tuesday, everybody just threw a big party because everything's so happy right now. But yeah, besides the obvious, I've been playing a lot of Dragon Age. I beat Life is Strange. I played some demos. So I'll talk about that later. And then you've got some exciting news topics that we'll go over and have some good discussion about that. But yeah, looking forward to it. November's chugging along. I went to 2 wrestling shows this week. AEW in New Hampshire, which was right down the street from me at the SNHU Arena. And then I went to a New Japan Pro Wrestling show in Lowell, which just happened last night. So for once, my raspy voice will be more related to shouting obscenities at wrestlers that are heels than me having a cold. But it should still be okay. Also, little plug, I released my latest Halloween video with Kim. So go check that out. Around 40 minutes, we talk about almost 20 horror movies that we watched this year. And we're still probably going to go see Nosferatu when that comes out in December. Despite some issues in this week that aren't really relevant to the podcast about video games, mostly good, mostly.
Yeah, the good news is the video game news this week is not super depressing, whereas we're going to be talking about layoffs and studios closing down.
Right.
Some positive things and some things worthy to talk about. First, I want to talk about the Steam updates that we're getting, or got rather. First of all, Steam is allowing us, finally, through their client and on the Steam Deck, to record our footage, and take if you're into that, if you're on social media like I am, it's this is really awesome and long time coming. I'm very social on social media, so I like sharing my clips and pictures and stuff like that. So making it more accessible and easier for me is awesome, but especially on the Steam Deck, that's a big game changer, and it's really well done. They did a great job. It's one of the best editors I've ever seen on a device like this. So let me give you a little more detail. So Steam has introduced a new update that enables gameplay recording on both the Steam client and the Steam Deck. So for starters, I think a lot of people don't use NVIDIA, GeForce, and all that to record their footage.
Right.
So the Steam client, I don't know if that's really going to do anything for me, but apparently they put a cap on it now. So, but even then, I'm never going to hit 100 hours or whatever. I think it was 100 hours, so I don't think I'm going to hit that. So it doesn't really affect me, but it's just easier to streamline it through Steam now, right? You just like the pictures, taking a screenshot on Steam is easy. I have it set up where I just hit a key, and it takes a picture for me. But that's only interesting if you like to share your screenshots and what you're playing to an audience, like I do.
Yeah, when I want to record something, I usually record it through my PS5. I haven't been able to share it as much lately because Twitter, and I will always call it Twitter, has basically been blacklisted by both Nintendo and PlayStation from having their videos uploaded. And Microsoft. So it's a lot harder for me personally to share clips. I've actually been meaning to share a Stellar Blade video that was pretty funny, where I got a little, I think one of my first treasures or whatever, and it made a special noise. And just as I got out of the prompt or whatever, I got hit by an enemy, and it was incredibly hilarious timing. And I want to send to the show. I really like highlight reel, but it's not as easy as it used to be, because I could just tag Chris Persons before and just be like, hey, here it is. Yeah. But now I've got to I don't even know, download it onto a USB or send it through email or post it on YouTube, I guess, and then it's just weird.
Well, PlayStation
doesn't work as well.
PlayStation, you upload it to the app, and then you can download it off the app.
Oh yeah, that's true. I forgot about the app. So yeah, maybe I'll do the app. But it's cool that Steam's doing this. Honestly, if you had told me that they just started a video app or something, a recording app, I would be like, they didn't have one already. Not that I've ever used one, but I only ever use I take lots of screenshots, when I'm playing a game, just for the memories. And if I see something really beautiful, if I ever want to go back on it, I almost never do. But like, it's nice when I'm going back through my photos and I'm like, oh, that was really cool, or this was really pretty. Um, but yeah, generally, I would have thought that Steam would have already had something like this. So it's interesting to me that they're only getting it now through their own client, no less.
Yeah, and the reaction has been very positive, and people are very excited about the future, like what a future updates. So it's really exciting. And but the big change for me, the big benefit is be able to do it on your Steam Deck. Like it's very frustrating, right? Well, it was very frustrating to share things on your Steam Deck because a lot of people use their Steam Deck as their main PC, or it's their main place to play PC games, and it was really harder. It was annoying to share screenshots and and videos.
Yep.
So now they made it way more streamlined and easier to do. So it's really awesome to see this on a handheld. Best thing probably the best editing software ever on a handheld, which makes sense because we've never had handhelds on this level that are like basically handheld PCs. Handhelds were always just handhelds. So
Right.
yeah, so really positive news there. All right, next topic is about Mass Effect. So if you didn't know, this week was N7 Day, which is Mass Effect Day. People were hoping to see the Mass Effect 5, but they said that's going to be coming in the
It's
future. So
right. It's in development. They're not going to show anything. I did see. I want to point this out since you mentioned N7. Um, One of the AEW stars, sort of Strickland, had a N7 like little vest on. I think like not vest, but like a sweatshirt or whatever. It looked really good. He had it like on like a week or two ago, so it wasn't for N7 Day. But I thought that was really cool, like seeing that. I immediately recognized it as Mass Effect. But yeah, we did get some Mass Effect news, but mostly um BioWare saying, "Hey, Dragon Age just came out. Be kind of weird to do a whole bunch of stuff." But they did put some custom armor and stuff in Dragon Age Veilguard that is Mass Effect appropriate.
yes, but the big news of N7 Day was the fact that a Mass Effect show is now in development, which has been a long time coming because they wanted to make a movie series way back when, like early 2010s, and they just never gained any traction. So if you know Amazon, I think they had the Expanse, I think it was called. People were really into that show, and if Mass Effect is able to be as quality as that show, then I think it can be exciting if it's done right. I think Mass Effect translates to TV very well. Mass Effect's already cinematic. It has a lot of dialogue, very narrative heavy. Choices, science fiction. You can be creative. I think the monster aliens are all humanoid looking, and you can do it practically and CGI. I think it's very manageable. It's not like adapting Dragon Ball or something. It's like it's very humans and everything. But to give more detail, the show is being written and executive produced by Daniel Casey, who wrote the ninth Fast and Furious movie. It's also executive produced by Kareem Zariq, who did Jessica Jones, and
Nice.
Ari Arid, who did Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So that's some good titles, good people there. And
Yeah.
it says BioWare's Michael Gamble, the project director on the next Mass Effect game, will also be the executive producer. So you got people, that's important to have. You need to have people that are working on Mass Effect to help with the show. And it says it was originally reported back in November of 2021 that Amazon was nearing a deal to make a Mass Effect TV series. And this is at the time former BioWare lead writer David Gator, who was lead writer in all three Dragon Age games, said the idea of a Mass Effect TV series or a Dragon Age one made him cringe just a little. He said, for starters, Mass Effect and Dragon Age have a custom protagonist, meaning said TV show will need to pick whether the said protagonist will be male or female. He explained at the time. Boom! Right off the bat, you've just alienated a whole bunch of built-in fan base who had their hopes up. Dory, do you agree with him on that? About the protagonist?
Hey, I feel like there's a couple ways around that. Number two, you could have You could have two shepherds. I know that's an inelegant solution. You could also just troll people and make them non-binary, and boom, now you've alienated everybody. So I feel like that's a win for me personally. Obviously, that's me being very selfish. But no, I mean, I think Femme Shep is the real Shep. I don't know. It's not like male Shep is a boring voice, but I mean, you can't argue with I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting her name, Jennifer Hale. You can't argue with Jennifer goddamn Hale. I mean, she is just an incredible voice actress. Besides, and she just really gives so much character to it. So yeah, I mean, if anyone would be upset, I feel like you just lean more towards having Shepard be a woman, and I think that's great. But I mean, I don't know. I don't really feel like this is a big deal. My whole thing about this is like, I'm already kind of burnt out on TV adaptations of video games. I'm not saying they're all bad or that I hate them all or that they shouldn't be done and it's ruining my media or whatever. Like, no, I'm not one of those people, obviously. But like, for me, it's like, it's just not something I really get, really get excited about. If I wanted to experience these universes again, I'd go play the trilogy, or at least I'd play the first two games, and then pretend the Citadel DLC was the end. And then, yeah, so I mean, I get where he's coming from, though. I understand it is a very choice-based game, of course. Very story-based decisions matter a lot. So obviously, you kind of have to do that, and it's not a problem that, for example, Naughty Dog had with The Last of Us, because that was also a very story-driven game, but not a very choice-based game. Explicitly in the second game, especially. It was not a very choice-based game because I'm sure a lot of people disagreed. Well, we know a lot of people disagreed with the choices that Naughty Dog made and Druckmann made. I wasn't necessarily one of those people, but yeah. So it's a complicated thing, but ultimately, if you're going to make a Mass Effect TV series, you have to make those choices. I don't know if, with all due respect, I don't know if Gamble is just seeing the dollar signs there and just seeing it's good for the brand and would help Mass Effect 5, or if he just doesn't think that's a big deal. I don't know.
Personally, I always view Shepard as male because that's what I associate with Mass Effect because I played a male Shepard, but I'm totally indifferent about it. I wouldn't bother me if they use a female chef. So it doesn't really matter to me. But we don't even know if this show would adapt Mass Effect anyway. It could be like before or after. You know what I mean? Like we don't have any details on that. But so for all you know, they might even have Shepard in the show. But if they do it, I'm indifferent about it. Amazon is starting to get a good track record. I mean, the Fallout show is one of the greatest adaptations of a video game ever, like if not the best ever. Like it was so accurate and spot on, and it was like I know some people had a couple issues with the lore here and there, but that was like the really hardcore fans. Overall, It was very successful. Got nominated for Emmys and I think it won some things. It might be the greatest adaptation ever. To me, it is. I think it was actually better than the Last of Us show, which I also really like. But
Yeah.
I had issues with the Last of Us show in some parts. We won't get into that, but mainly they had not having zombies for like 5 episodes and them going lightning speed across the country. Like it was like a casual. It was like a nice stroll down the country with no obstacles in the way. That kind of stuff. But
yeah.
So I think the Fallout show was the best. So I think Amazon has a good track record. So that makes me more optimistic as well. Like I said, Mass Effect translates really well into a story, but to a show. But people just have to be mindful that this is not going to be a choice-based show, of course. So you're just gonna let the writers pick what they feel is best. But it is tricky, right? When you have to when you're adapting something that's choice-based. But like I said, Fallout didn't adapt a game. It just did its own story in the same universe. So Mass Effect can easily do that. There's no reason why they have to do Shepard in the whole Mass Effect story. They can easily just pick another character and do a bunch of new characters.
Fuck it, Garrus season. Let's go. Whole season about Garrus and his calibrations that he has to make. Let's go. Yeah. I'm locked in.
Exactly. I would watch that.
I would watch that too. Yeah, but I mean, if this is good, who's? I'm sorry, you probably said it too, and I blanked out. But like, who's producing it? Is it Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon. It's gonna be an
Oh,
Amazon
okay, it's
show.
always Amazon. God damn it. But I am interested to see how it does. How it do, as Snoop Dogg would say. And I do love Mass Effect, and I mean, it has a lot of lore, obviously, a lot of possibilities. I think it's very funny that I was like, well, I don't know if you'd really isolate that many people because fem shep's obviously the answer. Then you're like, well, I don't know, male shepherds though, so
Yeah.
I just think there's your problem right there, I guess. But yeah, I mean, best wishes to them. I hope it reinvigorates the brand. But mostly I just care about Mass Effect 5. But I'm nothing wrong with more Mass Effect in my life or anyone's life, really.
Yeah, you have to think that if the show is successful, it will draw a new audience in, and more people be more willing to buy Mass Effect 5 and play the trilogy, which is always like dirt cheap now. I mean, the remastered collection's always like $9, $8 on sale now. So there's no reason not to experience those games. It's very accessible,
Sure.
on
Absolutely.
every platform. So, all
Yep.
right,
Mass Effect 2, one of the best games of all time.
yes, totally agreed. Moving on to some Resident Evil news. So Resident Evil 9 once again has had some news leaked, which happened about a year ago, where there was a rumor about a couple characters being in the game and some story elements of it. And then these leaks line up with those rumors very well. So there's a lot of smoke to these rumors, so it's probably true. It doesn't mean it's definitely true, but I think it's been repeated enough that it's probably true. So first of all, it's gonna take place on an island that's gonna have abandoned hospitals and caves and a dark forest, an abandoned factory, a lab. Very Resident Evil stuff. Very Resident Evil setting. Uh, Apparently the protagonists are gonna be Jill and Leon. This be the first time that Leon and Jill have ever been together in a game. They were in a
Yeah, that's
movie.
hype.
They were in a movie together. They were in the Dead Island movie, and with Chris, Rebecca, Jill, Claire, Leon, everybody, all the main characters were in that movie. It was like the Avengers Endgame of Resident Evil. Wasn't the greatest movie ever, but it was fun seeing them all together. And Jill and Leon had plenty of scenes together. That's probably not a coincidence. Maybe they were Capcom's way of testing it out how the characters respond together. But I'm curious if it's gonna be the old Jill. Like, is it gonna be the character model from Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil Remake, or is it gonna be like Resident Evil 3 Remake Jill? Like in the movie, in the Death Island movie, um, they used the remake Jill's face, which is kind of odd, I suppose, because it's supposed to be canon Jill, and they're using the remake version in the same universe where she looks totally different in the Resident Evil 5. But whatever, we'll just pretend that's not the case. But either way, that's so exciting. Jill's like one of the greatest woman protagonists ever. I love Jill, and Leon's my absolute favorite Resident Evil character. So that's an awesome team up, and that's really cool. And then apparently the enemies in this game are evolved zombies. So they're not like regular zombies; they're evolved zombies. They're similar to the Ganados in Resident Evil 4. So they're gonna be like human enemies that probably use weapons and
I
swarm you.
can I can only imagine now Zombies Plus, the new streaming service coming this fall.
And then apparently there's a stalker enemy that stalks you, like a nemesis or Mr. X, which
Right.
which Capcom's obsessed with doing now. We've gotten that in Resident Evil 2 remake with Mr. X. We got that Lady D in Village, and we got that with Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 remake. So I guess that's just a formula that keeps working for them. So I'm curious how that works. I guess even Resident Evil 4 remake, if you think about it, because the big, the village chief chases you for like the first quarter of the game. You can't fight him really until like
Right.
to the cabin section. I think the cabin, it was like a abandoned cabin or whatever. And then apparently there is a goat man enemy that's gonna fight Jill. So like a goat man, which
Okay.
again, like we've like in Resident Evil 4 remake, we had that guy like the bull, those guys that were like the bullhead. Remember that? So
Which game is that again?
Resident Evil 4 remake. Remember, like, there's that
Oh
enemy
yeah.
with the bullhead that charges you.
Oh my god, why am I forgetting? I remember the claw one that chases you, but I don't remember the bull one. Is that in the DLC or is that in the main game?
Main game. Was he a bull? I think it was a bull. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't remember that, but I believe you that exists.
Yeah. It might not have been a bull. I'm pretty sure it was though, but maybe I'm just misremembering. But either way, it's not out of the realm of possibility with Resident Evil. So,
Oh, the guy with the sledgehammer. The guy. Yes. I had to look that up, but yes, I remember now.
Yeah, but apparently this one is not like it's like a side enemy. This sounds like it's a boss or like a main villain character that's gonna pop up here and there. I mean, it's the same franchise that has zombies and werewolves and
zombies and werewolves and witches. Oh my! Actually, and vampires. Oh my! Shit, I should have said vampires.
7-foot sexy ladies with giant claws.
I mean, I'm not saying anything, and no one can tell me.
Yeah, you got Matrix moves. Leon running up a wall to avoid lasers.
Rocket launchers and volcanoes, punching boulders. So good. I fucking love Resident Evil 5 just for that goofy shit. I know it's divisive.
I love corny Resident Evil. That's what makes that's the charm.
Yep, for sure.
And then the main villain is said to be called Mr. Simon. So we don't know what that means.
If they don't do a creepy Simon Says joke, I'm getting a refund. There's no way they don't do some kind of creepy Simon Says joke.
But from what I'm gathering, this story is meant to be like an origin of like Evelyn from Resident Evil 7, the girl, like how she was created and things like that. Like it's gonna be like it's gonna tie into Resident Evil 7 and 8, and the fact that like it's gonna talk about the what do you call it? What is the thing called? Not the ooze.
Not the Ouroboros.
The mold.
Yeah.
So this one's supposed to like delve deeper into that, like it's gonna and like all that stuff with Evelyn and everything. So I'm gonna guess Mr. Simon's like a scientist that was involved in that, and he probably turned himself into a monster or something. So that's probably who Mr. Simon is. So, and I think it takes place after Resident Evil Village, but before the Rose DLC. So I don't think Rose is going to be in it. I think she's like a kid still. So
okay,
yeah, because the Rose DLC, the ending of it jumped way in the future. Like Chris is like an old man. So
right.
So yeah,
I had forgotten about that. That Rose DLC feels like forever ago.
Yeah, it does. But I'm pretty sure the new Resident Evil 9 is gonna come out next year. Like, I'm not saying it's definitely going to, but I lean that way. I mean, it's been 4 years since Village.
Right.
And like I said, Resident Evil 4 Remake is made by a different team, and Capcom's gigantic, and they can work on different projects at the same time. So I'm pretty confident we'll probably see Resident Evil 9 during the summer, like Summer Game Fest, and then it'll probably come out late in the year.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it's October.
Yeah, October seems like a good time. When did Resident Evil Village come out?
That is a great question, Seb, and I do not know.
Because Resident Evil 4 Remake came out in like springtime, I want to say, or even earlier.
Yeah. Let's see. RE7 came out in January.
Oh, January. I was way off.
Yeah. In Japan, anyway.
Resident Evil 4 Remake came out in March. So
yeah.
Resident Evil games tend to come out in the first quarter a lot, I guess.
For sure.
Resident Evil 2 Remake came out in January too.
Let's see. When did RE8 come out?
That's
RE8 came out in May. Yeah, so first quarter, yeah.
Okay, so it won't come out October. So we'll see. Maybe we'll get something earlier than that. They'll do a Capcom show. Capcom does their own shows. So.
Yeah.
All right, so it's exciting to me. How does this feel for you? Because
I'm excited. Okay. I love Jill. I love Leon. The master of unlocking, the master of not becoming a sandwich. I was gonna I almost said the master of sandwiches, and then I realized how misogynistic that sounds out of context.
Yeah.
But the master of unlocking, at least, and a title that Ashley is desperately fighting for in RE4, but she will not get it. But seriously, this is super exciting. I don't usually, as a rule, or just I like generally I don't like looking at leaks. But like I don't mind speculating about them. I am looking forward to Resident Evil 9. I feel like this is probably going to. Well, this feels like a departure, really, from the first two games, which were all about Ethan and the Winters family. I thought that RE9 would be about Rose taking over as the protagonist and finishing up the Mold trilogy, I guess you would call it, and having some kind of wrap up to that. I mean, maybe there will be a time skip, or maybe Rose will come in the second half. I don't know. I know she's still a kid, right? So, allegedly anyway. So obviously this is all rumors. We don't know for sure. We're not making predictions. We're recklessly speculating, as they say. But I mean, I think this is fun. Jill and Leon have somehow never been in a video game together, like you said. So that inherently makes it fun. I really loved Resident Evil 8. It was definitely in my top 10. I don't remember exactly where. I think it was my number 8 or something like that, or 7. But it was a really great game, and had a lot of really great characters. And so I'm excited to see what Capcom does next, and hopefully learns from whatever small misgivings I had, and makes Resident Evil 9 an excellent one. I don't expect anything on the par with RE4 make, because for me that's pretty much a perfect game. I mean, I even speed ran it a few times, so that really speaks to how much I love it, because I almost never do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like you said, those sound like some Resident Evil ass locations: an island, a laboratory, all that stuff, a cave, dark forest, factory that's abandoned. I think you had that in RE8 as well, in the late game. So exciting stuff.
It's gonna blow up at the end. I can't think of a Resident Evil game that doesn't end with an explosion.
Yeah, I was just about to say, when you were saying earlier, you were like, da 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 da, and I was like, and then they run away and it explodes behind them.
Yeah, there's gonna be a self-destruct system at the end, and you have a timer. Get out of there.
Yeah.
I'm curious if it's gonna be first person or third person. Because like, you imagine if you have Leon and Jill, they're not gonna do first person. But I guess that would be interesting to see Leon in first person. Like, how would that play? Like roundhouse kicking in first person? Would that be too goofy for Resident Evil?
I don't know. Flexing in punching boulders in first person.
Make it VR.
Unlocking.
Make it VR.
That's right, in VR. Unlocking things in first person. I mean, what will they think of next?
Yeah, you can lockpick in the door as Jill in VR.
That's right. Just Barry's voice in her head. Good job, Jill. And there's like you get scored based on how well you unlocked it out of how many sandwiches.
Yeah.
And it's just completely indecipherable to anyone who's not like steeped in fucking Resident Evil lore or memes.
Yeah, you go into the kitchen, it's like you actually make a sandwich. You just grab the bread, and like it's a puzzle.
Yeah.
It's like actual
puzzle. It's a puzzle. That's right.
To get a key.
Mr. Simon just has a really big thing for locked doors and sandwiches, and Jill's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. It's like some Silent Hill kind of shit. Like, you get locked in the room, and you have to like make a sandwich to get the key.
That's right.
pull the cloth off. You pull the cloth off the counter, and it's a sandwich. Like bunch of.
That's right. I can't wait for Mr. Simon's just revealed to be a deranged Barry. That'd be sad, but also funny.
Apparently, Barry's in this game too, and Chris.
What? Oh, that's awesome. They better fucking. I know they will, because it's Capcom. But I hope they do, not endless jokes, but a good, tasteful meme or joke here or there. I'm sure they will. They love doing that shit, and I love when they do it, to be clear. So that's cool.
Yeah, typically when Jill's in the game, Barry's in the game. So.
Right. Yeah, he's never far behind.
Yeah, although I don't think he was, because even when he wasn't in Revelations 1, he was the main character of Revelations 2. So. Right. Anyway, now all this could be complete bullshit, and like everything's completely off. But
yep.
Take everything we say with a grain of salt. That's just what
people absolutely a mountain of salt. Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're recklessly speculating, but we're both huge Resident Evil fans. I've been following the franchise since I was a kid, and so is Seb. So we grew up with it, really, and we both really love it. We love schlocky zombie stuff. So any news about Resident Evil, we're probably going to talk about it if it's big enough and if it warrants kind of a discussion like this. But yeah, all we can do is hope that some of this is right. But if it's not, whatever. I'm sure Capcom has some cool stuff planned.
Yeah, I'm optimistic either way. I think Capcom's been on
Yes,
been on a roll at Resident Evil.
absolutely.
I know
They've
Resident Evil.
been.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. They've been some of the best in class in terms of their output for games recently. I mean, 7 was really good. Obviously, had its problems, but a real return to form, like everybody says. 8 was an improvement on that. Obviously, the remakes have been a smash success. You know, I know Capcom's obviously Devil May Cry 5. I love Devil May Cry 5. That was my introduction to the series. You know, I don't play it, but I mean, you can't deny the success of Monster Hunter. That's been super successful for them. So
yeah, the only trip has been Resident Evil 3 remake, but even Resident Evil 3 remake wasn't that bad. It was like 7
right,
7 out of 10 for me. So
sure,
it was more disappointing than it was bad. So
right,
they've been on a roll. Resident Evil 2 remake was my game of the year. Resident Evil 4 remake was like my top 5 game of the year. Resident Evil Village was a top 10 game for me. Those are all bangers. And Resident Evil 7 is like one of the scariest games of all time. Like if you didn't know anything about that game and you go into it, especially in like VR, it's one of the scariest games ever made. It's really good. And it brought the franchise back to horror, which we desperately needed. All right, so moving on to our last news topic of the night, which would be some Nintendo Switch 2 news. So, Nintendo has reiterated its plan for the Switch 2 announcement window, stating that the console will be revealed during its ongoing fiscal year, but the company is still keeping other details about the Switch successor close to the vest. So, this is mainly about when they're going to announce it. According to mid-February reports, the Switch 2 was initially planned to hit the market this year, but ended up being pushed back to 2025. The exact reasons for this reported delay are unclear, although some industry watchers speculated that Nintendo wanted more time to work on the upcoming console's launch library. That makes sense. On November 5th, the Japanese gaming giant published its latest consolidated financial report for the 6-month period ending September 30th. During the subsequent earnings call, Nintendo president Furukawa, I don't say that. Sorry for butchering his name. Said that the company will still plan to announce its console during the current fiscal year, which runs until the end of March 2025. So basically, in other words, the first quarter we're gonna get an announcement. So they're gonna reveal the Switch 2 in the first quarter of the year until March. So it's gonna be January, February, or March.
it's probably Kawa. By the way, that's probably how that's pronounced.
Yeah, I have my laptop like a little like far from me, so it's like I'm
Oh,
nearsighted,
okay.
and I'm nearsighted, so
Yeah. Okay, gotcha.
I see a blurry letters in the middle. But
Oh, okay.
either way, the president of Nintendo said he's going to reveal the Switch 2 in the beginning of the next year, and I want to guess probably January or February. It's a safe bet, and I want to guess it's going to come out. So the easy answer is the fall or winter time. No, the winter time for Christmas.
Right.
But Nintendo products tend to come out in the spring. You know what I mean? Like Switch came out in the spring. I'm pretty sure, because that's when because Horizon came out, and that's when Breath of the Wild came out, and Breath of the Wild kind of destroyed Horizon. Like
Yes. Well, Horizon loves being destroyed. It's like at this point, I feel like Gorilla has some kind of it's tradition. I mean, it's tradition that makes it okay, as Weird Al would say. But it's I mean, they got some kind of fetish for having Horizon just demolished by something.
I think they called them up and then they'd be like, "Hey, Gorilla, can you release Horizon on this day so that way we can win Game of the Year?" Because like every game that gets on the same day as Horizon seems
fucking Elden Ring, dude. Goddamn Elden Ring. You wouldn't move it around for Elden Ring? It's just like stupid.
Didn't like the PC version of Horizon come out around Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and then I think the remake that just came out is also
remastered
of the remaster of the original is also coming out or did come out.
Came out the same day as Dragon Age.
Right, came out the same day as Dragon Age.
Yeah, Halloween. So I'm not saying Dragon Age didn't win Game of the Year, but you get what I'm saying. Like they always
the point is they always release it on loaded weeks, and it's like I don't know. Y'all are just wild.
So I'm really excited for the Switch 2. I haven't really used my Switch much because, like I said before, I'm kind of just waiting for the Switch 2 at this point because it has been confirmed it's backwards compatible, which that was a safe bet. That would have been really stupid and greedy on their part. It's not because like it got really annoying, at least for me, to keep getting $60 remasters of Wii U games because all the Wii games were not accessible on Switch, which it benefited me a lot because I didn't get to play any of those games. But at the same time, it was like, why are they $60? And then the answer is because people are going to buy them anyway. But either way, I'm glad that it's going to be backwards compatible, and that way I can play any games that I missed. And it's also exciting because as someone that owns a Steam Deck and a ROG Ally, handhelds are in a great place right now, and a device for Nintendo that's I'm not saying it's going to be super powerful, but if it's like even close to the Steam Deck's level with Nintendo's like polish, is really really exciting because like that's like PS4 level, and I'm really curious what like a Mario game would look like or a Zelda game with way better graphics and that kind of stuff. Because if there's one issue that like Tears of the Kingdom had and Breath of the Wild had was the performance issues. Like it's a gorgeous game and it has a really unique art style. A lot of many games copied it, but it did have frame rate issues, and people were like, "There's a reason why people were playing Nintendo games on the PC and unlocking the frame rate and things like that." So that's like Nintendo's biggest issue is the performance issues. Some games like a lot of the newer Switch games are starting to show their age, like the Peach game for example, whereas like this game was chugging like 20 frames at times.
I heard from the IGN reviewer who handled Brotherhood. I know his review is very different than most people's review, but still, in terms of objective stuff, like he was talking about some performance dips that happen every now and then. I was very surprised to hear about that. So that's 2 games in 1 year from Nintendo, which is very unlike them to have performance issues. That's just not a thing that Nintendo does with its first-party games.
Yeah,
So yeah, definitely a sign of the times for the Nintendo Switch.
definitely. And I'm curious what their launch games are going to be. Is the Metroid game going to be a launch game? Like we don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I would think so, right? And then are we gonna get a new Mario game with the launch, or what's gonna be the launch games? Is it gonna be a Pokemon game? I mean, there's a new Pokemon game around the corner, right? So
Probably.
I'm sure they're working on the next generation. I don't think that's gonna be a launch game, but like at least give me this like launch window or something, right? So I'm really excited just to know what the hell is gonna be like the launch games. I'm not gonna like play all my games on there. Like I'm gonna be very exclusive focused with my Switch too. Like I'll just play like when it comes to Switch games, I buy everything on PC, and I buy the exclusives on PlayStation 5 and the exclusives on Switch. So I don't use my Switch for like indie games or third party games. I buy purely Mario, Zelda, Pokemon, all that, Metroid. So I'm curious what it's gonna be, but we don't. That's not gonna be the topic for tonight. I'm just curious what the launch games are gonna be, and when it comes around, that'd be a fun topic to talk about and speculate what we'd like to see on the Switch 2 for the launch. Dora, do you plan on getting this day one, or are you gonna wait, or do you want it at all?
I'm gonna wait. I honestly, Kim plays the Switch more than I do. She's been playing Overcooked 2 lately, which is very funny because she's finally playing a game that she can get mad at. So we'll be playing games together, and I'll be like, for once, I'll be totally calm, and she'll be like, "God damn it!" And she's like, and she's laughing, and she'll be like, "How come I need to do the dishes? Come on!" So it's a very gratifying experience because I'm like, "Yes, yes." Feel how I get upset at video games. But it's fun. But yeah, I mean, I like the Switch, but I just don't use it anymore. Between my PC and my PS5, I really don't need it. And I just don't buy a lot of the Nintendo first-party games that are exclusive to Nintendo anymore. I never bought Wonder, and I wanted to get Wonder, and I never got Super Mario, Super Paper Mario, or what the Thousand Year Door is what I'm trying to say. So I want both those games still, probably Wonder to play with Kim, and I've never played Thousand Year Door because I didn't grow up with a GameCube. I had friends who had GameCube, but I mean, I never had time to play a 40-hour RPG or whatever. So I'm excited to play those two. But yeah, I have no pressing need for a Switch 2. Really, what I'm interested right now is getting a better gaming PC or gaming laptop or whatever, and then keeping with my PS5. So, but we'll see. I mean, I'm excited to follow the news. Obviously, when Metroid comes out, I'm day one on that. But I don't think I'll need to have the Switch 2 to play it. At least I hope I won't.
I don't think so. I think it's going to be like Breath of the Wild, where there's a Switch 2 version and a Switch version. So you probably won't need to play. You probably won't need
Right.
to. You can probably get on Switch. I'm really excited for it, but I'm not gonna say I'm definitely getting it day one. So I gotta see what the specs are gonna be, what the price is gonna be. My question though is if it's gonna be as strong as like a Steam Deck, what's the pricing gonna be? Because like Steam Deck is at least $400. Mine
Yeah.
was $700 because I got the OLED and I got the 1 TB version. So is it gonna be what's the price range for the Switch 2? Because I'm sure
How much is
I'm sure they want to be
how much
cheaper.
is the Switch now?
Well, the Switch is still 300, and the
Okay.
OLED's 350.
So 400 does seem possible.
It seems likely, yeah. I think it's gonna be 400.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think people will buy it. I think they know that
Right.
too. So I think $400 is a safe bet. There's no way it's gonna be 300. I think because considering the price of the spikes and everything, it's just gonna be they're gonna lose money on that. Well, not they'll make money, but you know what I'm saying. Won't make as much money because they'll be losing money selling stronger hardware for less. So, yeah, we'll speculate about that when we get closer to its announcement. So let's talk about what we've been playing. Now, Dory, you've been playing a bunch of demos and Life is Strange and Dragon Age. So you start with the demos. And then
Sure.
we can talk about
So this will be really quick. I have 3 demos to talk about. All of them are indie games that I think Seb and I have talked about before. So the first one's With My Past. This is on, you can play right now on Steam, but there's also a demo. It's a cute little puzzle platformer. You have this woman who's reflecting on her life, and there's kind of like a mirror element where you have your past self who's running right behind you, and then you're running ahead, and you have to like solve these puzzles through two different characters. And it's very metaphorical, of course, because you're running from your past. There's a lot of, I only played the demo, of course, which I didn't even finish. I didn't finish most of these demos just because I wanted, either I just realized that I wasn't really enjoying myself, or I forgot to pick it back up. But With My Past is very cute. It's got a very cutesy kind of pixel art. It's got positive reviews. If you like puzzles and enjoy platformers, I think this is for you. Not really for me. I gave it a shot because it had really good reviews, and I wanted to see if I'd like it. But I didn't really dig the puzzles. And I'm not a big platforming person, so just neither of the things really sold me. I was really there for the story, but the story was told, pretty slowly, and just didn't really, do a lot for me. But it's just a demo, so not like I wasted a lot of money or time. But again, that's called With My Past. It's on Steam right now. You can play it. Whereas the other 2 games I'm going to talk about, you can't play right now, and the demo is your way of experiencing it. The second game I played was Axe of Blood. I would describe this as like your basic revenge martial arts film with Arkham-style combat, which I know sounds really cool, but the execution of that kind of framework isn't necessarily amazing. It is I would say it's thoroughly an indie game. I almost called it a AA game, but I'm not even sure I go that far. This feels like a single A game, I guess, if you want to say that. There's some nice visuals, and I think the combat, when you hit and certain moves, look impressive. But overall, I didn't find the combat very satisfying. It felt kind of sluggish. The movement felt really slow. I thought the voice acting was terrible, to be honest with you. And there is some clipping and stuff that I noticed early in the game. Not a big deal, but just something I noticed. Something to keep your eyes on if you're really into that genre, and if you've really been missing out on like Arkham, Arkham City, Arkham Asylum kind of combat. But I don't know if I could heavily recommend it. I played for about 30, 45 minutes, and then eventually I just stopped. I just wasn't having a great time. I think I died, and then even when you die, it just resets your score, so you don't lose any progress or anything. So it's pretty forgiving. It's not like it's not like Sifu, right? It's not like a roguelite or anything like that. And then the last one I played was probably the best one. It was Kill the Shadow. This is the one, Seb and I talked about this a little bit. I think he turned me on to Acts of Blood and Kill the Shadow. Very violent titles now that I'm looking at them back to back. But Kill the Shadow is a pixel art kind of investigation game with lots of dialogue. So extremely my shit if it is done well. It basically you are following this washed up detective who's an alcoholic. So basically every noir ever. And he's haunted by the shadow of his past. Again, very literal and thick on the metaphor. But the pixel art's very nice. I thought the dialogue was well written. I thought the investigation board was a little clunky in controls, and I had some trouble getting used to it on keyboard or controller. So that wasn't great. But overall, I liked it, and I might get it when it comes out, pending reviews. I liked it enough to keep it on my wish list, whereas I got rid of the other two because I discovered they weren't for me. So again, demos are awesome, and I wish more video games did them. It does seem like more and more games are doing it, but with the AAA games, I wish they'd go back to it. So that's my thoughts on the demos. I do recommend Kill the Shadow to you, Seb. I think you'll like that. But the other two games, I can't personally recommend, but that doesn't mean you won't like them.
Yeah, I'll check them
out.
out.
All right.
For sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I'll check them out for sure.
Yeah. All right, I'll talk about Life is Strange then, if we're good to do that. So I played Life is Strange Double Exposure. Quick overall thoughts. I really liked it. It's not my favorite Life is Strange game. I think that still goes to True Colors.
Agreed.
I would have to... what's that?
Is it agreed?
Yeah, agreed. Yeah. I would have to replay Life is Strange 1 to see how it holds up. I haven't played it since 2016, 2017. A long time ago. I'm sure some of the dialogue from that game does not hold up. Even when I played it, I was like, oof. To quote Max, I was like, oofta, doofta. Am I right?
It is very corny.
But
it is very corny.
Yes, very corny, but I mean a little too saturine for me. Even back then, I can't even imagine, given the pandemic and the elections and everything else I've been through in the past 8 years, what I would even think about it now. But that aside, this game has beautiful environments. I took so many screenshots of Max looking out at certain vistas. You are in this New England, I believe it's in Vermont, and college, and the campus isn't huge, but it's lovely, and you get this kind of very picturesque kind of snowy environment that looks really good as you go towards through the game. I thought the writing was genuinely good and generally funny, which is very important for a Life is Strange game. Yes, there are moments where Max says, again, for example, oofta doofta, and I'm like, what? Who says that, Max? But generally speaking, I thought the game was very relevant. I loved whenever characters said bet. Thought that was great. Definitely a little corny, but some people do talk like that.
Me?
What's that?
I say bet. That definitely.
Yeah. Seb says bet. I mean, characters are really well written. I love pretty much all of them. There's a couple characters I wasn't like super hot on, and I'm not saying like they're Hall of Fame Life is Strange worthy, but I liked pretty much everybody. even the characters I didn't like Loretta. I'm looking at you, Loretta. You were obviously not supposed to like them, or they were supposed to go through some kind of, redemption arc or something. Although I didn't get that for Loretta. Speaking of consequences felt like they mattered without being game ending. I kind of went scorched earth by the end of the game. I wasn't trying to, but ultimately everyone kind of ended up hating me. Gwen ended up hating me. The president of the university ended up hating me. I think I almost pissed off Safi too, but like at the last minute changed my mind. I wasn't like trying to do this. I literally was making what I thought was the best decision, but it just ended up pissing people off.
I guess I was kind of in the same boat, but like,
Yeah.
a lot of them were just wrong. Like I didn't mind pissing them off because
right.
Like I wasn't a big fan of Safi. I thought she was just being a spoiled brat. I understand why she was upset, but like I feel like she was being very petty. And
I also feel like she was I think that's the message of the game, though, as you get towards the end, is that Safi's not completely in the right, and she is blinded by her need for vengeance / justice.
Right.
I mean, I even said to myself a couple days ago, I was like, only someone at a fucking New England liberal college could get this upset about this topic.
But not being published. Yeah. But
yeah, not being I didn't want to. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I should say it, but yes, it was a lot for just that. I understand why, given the background and what it was involved, and and I didn't mind pissing off the president of the university because she kind of sucks. But still, I did hate pissing off Gwen because I felt like I was doing the right thing, so I was trying to help her. But by the way, I love that they have a trans character with a deeper voice. As someone who is personally trans and has never done voice therapy, that's really cool and affirming to see. So I mean, shocker, representation matters, but it's really cool because often it's not. I'm not saying it's bad, but often when you see trans characters, they have kind of the high pitched feminine voice because lots of trans women do voice therapy so they can feel more in line with their gender, which is obviously great for them. Yeah. But I mean, personally, as a non-binary person who leans more feminine, it was awesome to see a trans woman who just kind of didn't really seem to do that. I mean, obviously, I don't know for sure, but she had more of a deeper voice than I'm accustomed to seeing trans characters, and I thought that was really cool.
Although with Gwen, like I thought Gwen's the way they wrote her was interesting though, because like you want to root for her and when you want to be on her side, but at the same time she always had a real big attitude, and I was like, they try to make her like a side villain in some parts, and it was like I was getting mixed signals because like at the end it's like Max is like, this school will never be the same without you kind of thing. I'm like, but the entire game she was antagonistic against me. So
yeah, I feel you. I felt bad.
The writing was I felt bad, but the writing was inconsistent.
Yeah,
like, she should have been more of a supportive character to Max. Like there should have been. That was my biggest problem with the characters. Like I really like the characters, but in terms of the writing, my biggest issue with the writing was the lack of development and the lack of showing their relationships. Like they should have had more scenes where Gwen and Max were together more, and like Gwen was more of a supportive teacher for her. You never got to see that. Everything was behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, or it was on notes or emails or stuff like that. I agree with you. I really liked Gwen. I wish we had gotten more from her in the game because I like you said, I wanted to support her through what she was going through, but at the same time, she made it difficult. And I think that there is something. Speaking as a trans person, and I'm not saying this makes anyone else's viewpoints invalid, but I did like that she was. Part of me did like that she was so, kind of. I've met trans people like that who are very spiteful and very angered about the way that either they've been treated or the way the world is because of who they are as a person. And I'm not here to cast judgment on that necessarily. Just to say that is a kind of trans person I've met before who feels very, hurt in a way by either their own experiences or just the way the world has treated other trans people because of how they are. And I think that's a super real and legitimate thing. It doesn't always make for a very friendly character. It kind of reminded me of this really great book about two trans characters called Nevada, which is kind of a trans classic and not a happy book by any means, but kind of reminded me of characters from that book. So I got kind of Nevada vibes. I don't know if that's what Deck 9 was going for, but if so, I feel like they delivered. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Doesn't exactly make for the most supportive character.
Yeah, just because they push her to be very antagonistic, like you were sneaking in her office and hiding stuff.
Max does a lot of sneaking in this game, and she's a snoop. She full on is a snoop. I thought it was so funny that you were like talking last episode about how she she's the person everybody calls on if they want to do illegal things, and I was like, what the fuck is Max getting up to? And then I start the game, I'm like, oh, she's an urbex, she's a urban explorer. Okay, like that makes so much sense. Like I was like, I didn't know what the fuck you were speaking so generally, which is fine, but like it's not a big spoiler. But it just like I just thought it was so funny because I had made up all my minds like, wow, like all these mental pictures. I'm like, God, she must be dealing cocaine or some shit. Like what the fuck's happening? But she's just an urbex explorer, which I think is cool.
Yeah, she breaks into abandoned buildings and she breaks into the cabinets. She breaks in people's offices. She goes through people's emails.
She opens people's emails. I mean, she is a snoop, capital S.
She's in everybody's business. And she throws it in their people's faces, like she confronts them for it. I would never. I mean, I admire Max so much because she's both such a goofy character, but she's also such a confrontational character. And she's like, I mean, you have the option, at least a few points in the game, to not call people out on their shit. I specifically have in mind a conversation with the university president where I did call her out on her shit, and then immediately got on her bad list too. Could you imagine could you imagine just chilling at work and then someone comes up to you and be like, remember that girl you used to talk to that died?
She does this so often in the game. She's like, hey, weird question. I'm like, Max, you always have weird, very specific questions.
I like Max. But she's definitely not. She's not a realistic character. I don't think.
No. I mean,
someone would definitely smack her in real life.
She would have gotten hit. She would have gotten thrown out of college. There's no way she would never have survived. But yeah, I will talk about a couple other positives, and then I'll talk about some negatives. I do think the game reckons with its past in an interesting, healthy way. I'm not going to talk about that too specifically, but I think that it respects your player's choice. And I also think that it, at least for me, I can't speak to other people who made a different choice in the first game. But, for me, I really felt the effects of my choice from the first game, which is impressive. And then I also felt like the last two chapters, while divisive, and I understand while some people don't like them, I personally enjoyed them. They felt very Life is Strange. Yes, there are some... I don't know if this is why people are upset, but I feel like why people might be upset is that there are some mechanics or lore that aren't fully explained about why Max can do certain things that she does in the last two chapters. And it's not really adequately explained why the hell she can suddenly do it.
Yeah.
Whereas she couldn't do it before.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Before I wrap up on this particular point, I'll just say I personally didn't have an issue with that. Life is Strange is a very weird, strange franchise, and it often doesn't really take the time to explain why the fuck things are going on. And so I don't mind it, but I understand why that would be frustrating for some people. And maybe that wasn't it, but that's just me guessing.
Yeah, that gets more in the negative territory. So if you want to keep talking about the positives first,
sure. I'll talk about the positives. We'll get into that in a second anyway. I feel like the central mystery about Safi's murder had really fun twists. I did figure out one of the major twists, literally seconds before it happened. But otherwise, I mean, I thought there were good twists. And I mean, time travel is a bench. What can I say?
Especially like the first two episodes. Those are fantastic twists.
Yes. I would say music is really nice and it's very indie-ish, but that's just
Life is Strange.
Standard fare that's just Life is Strange.
Yep. And it does the true.
I'll talk about it. Go ahead.
It does the true colors thing where it lets you meditate or sit in a spot and it just pans around and lets you absorb everything.
Yeah, I love that shit.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I'll talk about negatives, and Seb and I will probably very loosely, vaguely talk about the last 2 chapters. I will say there's a late game writing choice that I found very puzzling. A character, I guess, as much as I can say, is a character leaves a character to go on their own in a dangerous situation. I think Seb probably knows what I'm talking about. And it leads to these huge ramifications that really didn't need to happen and maybe wouldn't have if one of the characters had just realized it from their previous mistakes. Like, I'm trying to be vague here, but it's really frustrating because the action here is directly, like, you can directly correlate that to, the start of the game and like when everything goes wrong there. And it just feels very odd. It feels like that has to happen just so the other stuff does happen.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that. That is one thing that I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
That character would never do that. I don't care if the other character is protected in some way or another. Like that didn't add up to me, especially not based on what happens in the first chapter.
Yeah. We talked about it a little bit already. Overall, I really like the characters, as I said. Like, I really liked Amanda. Like, I loved her relationship with Max. Like, I don't know if you went the lesbian route with Amanda, or you chose to not be in a relationship.
Oh, I 100% with them. I mean, I like literally did find Amanda attractive. Like, I thought she was legitimately cute.
Yeah.
So for me, it was never an option. Who was the other option? Was it Vin or was it Moses?
Vin.
It was Vin. Okay, yeah, I found Vin like actively unattractive as a person.
No, I liked Vin. Like, see, this is my problem with the writing. The writing is very inconsistent. That's my biggest issue with the game. Is that, like, I feel like a lot of characters were underdeveloped, and this ties into my problem with the ending in the last 2 chapters.
Sure.
Like Vin at first was meant to be like this bully guy. Like, he was like, like in charge of a gang, basically, like a secret society, and then all of a sudden, he's cool with Max, and they're chilling at the bar, and they're having a good time, and they're laughing, and then you can even flirt with him and kiss him. And I'm like, this is like way out of left field. You know what I mean? Like, they made him to be the next Preston, the guy from the first game, the person that shoots Chloe, and like, I'm like, they made him douchey in the beginning. Why all of a sudden we're cool with him, but he's always like the target. Like, we're accusing him. Max is accusing him of smashing Stoppy's windshield.
Right?
And
And yeah.
And then, so that was weird. I feel like Amanda was so underused. Like, she was barely in the game. Like,
I also felt like that. I would have mentioned that as a negative if literally as I'm talking while playing the game, I'm like, this sucks. Where the fuck's Amanda? I haven't gone on that date with her. Like, what is happening? And then, I shit you not, literally like 5 minutes later, Amanda pops up out of nowhere. It's like, hey, let's go on that date that we never were able to. And like, let's have a pretend date in the bar, which I did think was very cute. And therefore I was okay. But it is funny at the end, you kind of get chewed out by Amanda because of your kind of timeline hopping. So that was kind of funny.
Right. And I would have had Amanda work with Max on the case, like, or something. Like, she should have been partnering with, like, helping her out.
It always seemed like she was busy at work. Like, did that girl work like 24/7? Like, no one else was ever at that fucking bar. Like, I know why. Like, you create other models and other characters and shit. But it always felt like she was the only person working there. Which, I mean, I don't know. Kind of realistic for 2024, but still, I not good for a video game. Like, she never gets to really help you. Yeah. And the only time. I can't really say this, but there is one time where you see her out of her workplace, but that doesn't amount to much.
She's just like, it's like she just was written to be a plot device, just to have a relationship mechanic in the game, and it's even more frustrating because there's like a scene where like you really have you can kiss her. I'll spoil that a little bit. This chemistry is like really, really good. It's really there's a spark there, and like that could have been a real major focus of the game, and it's not there at all.
Yeah,
she's just a plot device. The whole 90% of the game, she's just behind the counter, and I already talked about Gwen being underdeveloped. I think Moses was really well done, so I don't think I had no issues with him. But Sophie's character, I had a lot of issues with her character. I already talked about her whole pettiness and everything, but like, I felt like the whole story was underdeveloped because like it's meant to be like this ultimate betrayal, like you know what I mean, like at the end you make the choice, like
Right.
trust that person or not, right? And it the whole like she's supposed to be like your best friend. She's supposed to be the next Chloe for Max, basically. But everything was done off screen. Like it was all like, remember when we did this? Remember when we did that? It felt like the prequels to Star
Sure.
Wars, where like Obi-Wan and Anakin. They're like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
remember when we did that? Like everything, their whole chemistry was off screen. So Safi doesn't feel like Safi never felt like Max's best friend. She always felt like she had her ulterior motives, and she was like, she was screwing anyone that gets in her way, kind of thing. And she's kind of using Max just to get revenge on Lucas. You know what I mean? And
Right.
so Safi was like, they made her a villain, which she probably shouldn't have been, but it was so like she was so like one dimensional for me. I didn't think she was that great of a character. Like
Yeah.
I'm not saying she was bad. Like I feel like the writing was not great. Like I mean,
Sure.
she just it felt underdeveloped, and that was the whole last two sections. It just the mystery of what happened, of the murder, was more interesting than what happened in the last two episodes. So basically, like the mystery was really really awesome. The first three episodes were very engaging, and then for me, it just fell off the cliff in the last two episodes. I'm not saying it was horrendous. I'm just saying
Right.
because the ending was like it was kind of like a cliffhanger basically, and it was like leading up to another game, and I had characters that were upset with me, and there was like this one girl, Diamond. Remember, she's like upset
Yes.
with you. I'm like, okay, I barely know you, so okay. And so,
Yeah. I'll speak to a couple things about that. I really liked Safi as a character, so I can't agree with a lot of what you said there. I understand why you're saying it. To me, she didn't come off as one dimensional. I feel like I really understood why she felt like, why she felt like she did.
well, she felt like she felt like she was let down by everybody, like including her mom, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the way she was brought up, the way that she's been treated at the college, I agree that, that to me that gave her a lot more. For me, it gave me a lot more understanding of why she did well. She did doesn't make it okay, but I understood it more. I will also say that I do agree that the mystery was more exciting than the last two chapters, but I also, because I was more invested in Safi than you were, I really liked, spending that time with her and trying to resolve things and figure it out.
Well, let me be clear before you continue that I
Sure.
really like Safi in episode 4. Like I like the whole Krampus Christmas revenge on Lucas kind of thing that they pulled.
Sure.
It's just episode 5. It just feels like a total left field. Like now we're gonna do a villain. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? It just felt.
It felt like they were trying to do like. Sorry, it felt like they were trying to do like an MCU thing.
Yeah.
Where they're like doing like a post-credit scene. I mean, they did do a post-credit scene. Spoilers.
So episode 5 that I had problems with more than episode 4.
Okay, sure. And I kind of agree with you. I was going to say, I'll point out the rest of my negatives too. That I had some minor tech issues. Whenever Max would try to run, it felt like kind of hitched. Eventually, like I turned on HDR, and then it seemed to be better. I don't know why that fixed it, but I just meddled with the settings until I fixed it. My PC is not the strongest. It's like a 1680 Ti or some shit. Not even in the 20s. So I don't have the most powerful software, but I was able to run it on, I think, medium or something like that pretty well. I can't remember exactly what it was. But even on medium, it looked pretty good. And I think eventually I was able to run it on cinematic because the art style is not very graphically demanding. And then I guess my biggest issue with it isn't character related. It's game related. I just don't feel like this game was necessary. I got to be honest. I love Max. I love Life is Strange 1. I didn't need another game about Max. I think a newer character or story would have been more interesting. I think you easily could have had Amanda or Safi or Moses be the main character of this game, and I really feel like that obviously it does take some stuff out of it because the stories vary about Max and her past, But I mean, I feel like you could have done that and it would have been better for me. It just feels like this game kind of undercuts the lessons that supposedly Max learned in the first game. I know that her powers are different, and so she's not rewinding time. She's going through timelines, and she's trying to just figure out who solved the murder. She's not trying to undo it necessarily. But even that kind of gets backtracked on as Max kind of gets, kind of blindsided by her, not blindsided, but blinded by her powers and like really wants to live in the timeline where Safi is alive. So even that kind of cuts up against the lessons that she's supposed to have learned as a teenager. A thing that she makes fun of throughout the game, makes comments on about how she's not that edgy teenager anymore, or she's not the girl she was at Blackwell. It just doesn't. I don't feel like the game justified its existence. That doesn't mean it's a bad game. I think actually it's a really great game, but the game really feels like Empire Strikes Back. Like it feels, or Infinity War or something. Like it feels like a setup for another game more than it feels like its own thing. So yeah, those are my negatives. I still have it at like a really great 4.25 out of 5. It's number 10 on my list for now. I don't know if Dragon Age will replace it or not. I'm still going through that, and we'll talk about it in a second. But yeah, Seb, any other thoughts before I lose my voice?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of your negatives. First of all, this game had a lot of pop-ins, a lot of visual errors. There was a lot of textures that would look weird in some parts, like when it loaded in, especially. I thought the way it loaded in, when you open a door, the way it loaded in was very strange. I didn't like the audio. The audio was really bad at times in this game. Like characters would be really loud all of a sudden, and then quiet. Like the audio was like up and down. A lot of audio issues. And then I agree with you about this game being unnecessary. I felt like Max's story arc was complete. She learned a lesson. My story, she sacrificed Chloe because I felt like that was the lesson of the story. I just felt like sacrificing all those people for Chloe was not the way. I feel like the Max was learning a lesson about exploiting her powers, and this game kind of undercuts that. I also, in my storyline in first game, is I viewed Max as I view Max as bisexual, and my love interest in the first game was Warren, and he's never mentioned in this game or anything like that. Like my head,
I did.
Go ahead.
I actually, you do. I know she mentions Warren once, but it's like
Okay.
like a one sentence thing. Yeah, I don't remember exactly when it is. It's like middle or late game, but she does mention Warren once. And I don't remember in what I think she's just walking around the quad and she says something about someone who reminds her, or maybe it's a text message or something. I don't fucking remember. I will say the social media stuff was really fun. I kept up with all that stuff. I thought that was really well done. Never before since Spider-Man have I been so engaged in social media.
Yeah, that was good. But my point is, Warren was like the love interest for Max for me. I didn't view Max as being in a relationship with Chloe. I thought Chloe was just like a really, really good friend. Because I feel like the love, like making Max more of a lesbian in in this game fit more with Amanda. So that this chemistry was there, and I'm just not saying Max and Chloe don't have chemistry; they have amazing chemistry. But I viewed it more as like her awesome best friend that was like a punk rock, gets her in trouble kind of character. I didn't view her as like her girlfriend that Max had a crush on or anything. That was just my interpretation.
This would get you destroyed online, dude. Like you would be fucking eviscerated. I wouldn't even think you don't deserve it because I don't know.
I don't agree
Back when I first played the game, I also picked Warren, but I mean, looking back on it, I really think Chloe definitely had a crush on Max. She just couldn't admit it.
No, she did. Chloe definitely liked Max, but I'm saying Max did.
Okay.
I don't think Max like Chloe like that. I'm not saying she didn't, because this game it's all choice based, right? So, but
right.
like I feel like Chloe liked Max more than Max loved I say like as in like had a love interest in. Like that's just my point is overall is that being story based, right? Like my headcanon would have been like Max could have been in a relationship with Warren later on and something happened with, you know what I mean? Like by making a sequel, you have to like erase everything from the beginning first game in terms of like all my headcanons from my first play my first for the first game. Cause like she could have married Warren for all I know, you know what I mean? But now like this game confirms that she's not. She doesn't, and it doesn't need to exist, is what I'm saying. Life is Strange. What I like about Life is Strange is you get different perspectives of different characters around wherever around the United States. I like that the second game focuses on two brothers, and that True Colors focuses on a different character, and the Captain Spirit focuses on the boy, another character. In Life is Strange, and what else? What, am I forgetting one? No, that's all of them. And then and no, Before the Storm focused on Chloe and Rachel. So I don't need a sequel to Max's story. I thought it was fine the way it was. You know what I mean? Like I didn't think I didn't why we're bringing Max back. It just feels like it's meant for nostalgia bait. Like oh Max is remember Max the main character that everybody likes. Let's bring her
Do
back.
you guys remember Max?
Like she's I mean, for me, she's a great character. I love Life is Strange, but she's not some iconic character. She's not Lara Croft. Let's bring her back.
Right.
That's just me, though. I'm sure people are gonna get mad at me. I'm just saying, like, it didn't. This game didn't need to exist, and that's ultimately my takeaway from this game. I had a good time
Right.
with it. It's a 7 out of 10 for me. It's not my top 10 game at all, but I had a good time with it. I'll buy the next one for sure. I love Life is Strange. I'm not saying it's a bad game by any means. I will say it's a bit of a disappointment overall. Uh, it's not the most disappointing game of the year by any means, but it's definitely if I had a list, the top 10 like disappointing games of the year, it'd probably be on my list. But with that said, I'm saying it's a 7 out of 10, so I'm not saying this game sucks by any means. I wish they ended. I feel like the last two games that Deck Nine has made with Life is Strange, True Colors, also had a weaker ending, where I felt like it was rushed, and Deck Nine just doesn't seem to know how to close their stories very well. And I, but I'm willing to give them another chance because like they set a nice foundation for this game. I feel like they have a good cast of characters. I think Moses and Amanda and Max and all them can really be developed. Gwen can be developed very well. The next game. So now that we have the foundation, maybe the next game will have a stronger development with all the characters because now we know all of them, right? So we'll see, right? So I'm optimistic that they can do a better job with the next one, but I'm sure that there's gonna be visual and audio issues again because Deck Nine that's just been that's just how Life is Strange games are. They've always had those kind of issues in their games. So anyway, uh, I think we're almost in this. I think you like the game better than I do, but I don't think either of us think it was like phenomenal or anything like that. I think
Yeah, it's no Life is Strange True Colors for me.
yeah. Well, True Colors was like top 10 game of the year for me for sure. Like
Right.
that year was strong, but yeah, I think that was James's day. Wasn't that James's game of the year? And I said,
It was like my number two,
and
I think.
I said it was my number 10, and it ruined his game of the year reveal.
It
I said
ruined mine too. I was pretty pissed too. Well, not seriously pissed, but I thought it was really funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
James was mortified. I was appalled.
yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. But so let's talk about Dragon Age Veilguard now. So I've been playing it. I played it for let's say 7 to 8 hours. You played it for about 6
Oh, good.
hours.
Not that much more than me then.
Yeah, yeah. Only reason I haven't played it is because I feel like because I got a dock for my Steam Deck and I wanted to play something else a little bit here and there. But I just wanted to focus on Dragon Age. Dragon Age. First of all, I'll start a little bit. First of all, I think the visuals are really good. I think the environments look phenomenal, especially on my PC. It looks absolutely awesome. It has a really cool color palette, a lot of unique locations, cool designs. It's a very shiny game. It's cartoony but realistic at the same. It's kind of like Life is Strange, where it's like yeah. If you look, the character models don't look super realistic, but realistic enough where it's like a mix between realistic and cartoony. Not in an uncanny valley way. I think the characters look really well done. I think the combat is really fun. I think, especially the rogue character. I'm playing a rogue. I'm playing a human rogue with like a mohawk and everything. He's like very sassy. He always makes sarcastic comments. He's like me basically. Very social. Um, I really like the rogue combat. I love the mix between like teleporting, using the bow, doing all these dagger moves, shooting arrows in the sky, doing a bunch of arrows rain from the sky. That
I
kind of
have
thing.
never used the bow so much in a Dragon Age game. I mean, I played Origins 2. I played a good chunk of Inquisition. I'm not going to say, I don't even think I'm halfway through, but a good chunk of it. I've never used the bow so much in a Dragon Age game, which is a good thing.
Yes, I think the combat is really fun, especially when you get later on. I guess when you start unlocking your skills and everything. I've seen gameplay from other people. They're deep, way farther in than I am, and the gameplay looks even better. And they have all said it's really fun. And also, I think the voice acting is good. I really like the dialogue for the most part. I know there's some cheesiness here and there, some corniness, but I'm not. I like corniness compared to other people. Some people really hate it. I like some corny video games. It's just my kind of thing. That's why I love Resident Evil so much and Silent Hill and things like that. But the dialogue, I feel like the voice acting is good in this game overall, and the music is awesome. And those are your positives too, Dory. So I don't want to like just steal all your positives, but this is exactly my positives. So how do you feel
Yeah,
about
I mean,
voice acting?
I agree with pretty much all that. I do think there are some characters that sound a little off,
Yeah,
but generally speaking, I agree with you that the writing is solid and the characters are good. Some people have been talking about this online like it's written by a 5-year-old or something, and I'm like, I played 6.5 hours, not including the 4 hours I played on PC before I restarted on my PS5 because it just wasn't running very well.
yeah.
It looks gorgeous on my PS5, by the way. I have it on quality settings, and I never do that, but that was the default. And I mean, it's been running smooth for me. I have no slowdown, no drop frames. The performance is another positive I should have mentioned. It just runs so smooth. There are some times where I can't tell an enemy attack is coming because there's a lot going on. But I mean, generally speaking, but you can adjust that in the combat encounters and stuff like that. You can make the parry more forgiving and stuff like that. I forgot to mention two on my negatives, but I'll put that in there now so I don't forget. But yeah, the combat's really good, and I really like what they've done with it. It feels like a streamlined vision of what they want Dragon Age to look like. When you go back to Origins, that was a very streamlined vision. But you go to 2 and it gets a little muddy. Is it action RPG or is it tactical? And then you get to Inquisition. It's almost completely, action RPG. But there are still some small, tactical elements to it. This really feels like an action RPG. And it feels like the engine is really built to support that.
Yeah, this is like Final Fantasy VII remake in
Yeah.
comparison to Final Fantasy VII, the original. It's just very streamlined, action focused. You know what I mean? Although even that game has more RPG than this game. This game is full on like 4 simple action skills or whatever it is, and just smash buttons. It's a full on action game, really, right?
Yeah.
And it's very streamlined, like you said, and I think that's where some of the disconnect comes from with this game, is that like a lot of Dragon Age fans that love Origins and 2 and all that are disappointed with this one because this one feels more like mainstream. Let's make this more general, action focused. Draw new people in.
And I'm sorry, but those people are fucking silly. Like, I'm not gonna call them stupid, but those people are silly. Origins was like 20 years ago. Anybody who expected this game to be anything like Origins or even anything like Inquisition, it's been 10 years. BioWare has been through so many changes. Anyone who's even remotely kept up with BioWare and the people who have left, the people who have come in, the whole Anthem debacle, like, this is not the same BioWare. It's not like there's nobody from Dragon Age left over. That's not true.
Yeah.
There's still definitely some veteran developers that have been there for a long time at BioWare. But anybody who is disappointed, your feelings are valid, but they're silly. You're fine to have them, but anybody who judges this game because it's not like Origins, it's like, what are we doing? It hasn't been like Origins for 15 years. Like Dragon Age 2 was barely like Origins, you know? Even when I was playing Dragon Age 2, I kept saying that this is like Dragon Age, a game pretending to be Dragon Age Origins by putting on like that Groucho mustache and nose outfit that little kids use. It hasn't been Dragon Age Origins forever.
It's a bad mindset to have because you're always gonna fall in that trap where like you're always comparing things. It's like comparing like it's like when an Andromeda come out and like you compare it to the original Mass Effect, like it looks way worse in comparison. That game is not good, but it's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be either. And people are gonna, when Mass Effect 5 comes out, people are gonna do the same thing. They're gonna compare Mass Effect 5 to the 2,
of course.
And then it's gonna be like, oh, it wasn't as good as the second. It doesn't make it a bad game though, and that's my opinion of this game. It's like, yeah, it's not as good as Origins probably. I mean, Origins is one of the greatest games ever made. It's like,
right.
So like, that doesn't make so that sometimes what people do though, like they have like this mindset where like, oh, Origins is the best game, one of the best games ever. So this game sucks in comparison. This is not my Dragon Age. Then it's like this game is not bad. It has a lot of good qualities to it. I'm not saying the story is Disco Elysium, but it's
right.
It's fine. It's good. You know what I mean?
It's a good story. Solus is a great villain. Yeah. Varric is an excellent narrator. Like, I'm not, I agree with you, Seb. I'm not saying the story's amazing, and I'm not saying that the companions haven't really blown me away. I like all of them. I think all of them are good.
Yeah.
But they're fine. But I also haven't, it's worth pointing out, Seb and I are both like 5-6 hours in. Like I just started getting companion quests, like literally right before the podcast. I just started like getting companion quests. So like we're still in the early throes of it. Maybe the companions will win me over more with time. Reviews have been kind of all over the place for this thing. Mostly, positive, but there have definitely been some people who are a little less positive.
Yeah.
Something I read on Twitter is that, of course, this is a Dragon Age game because everybody's fucking debating whether this is a fucking Dragon Age game. It's the same thing with Final Fantasy. When Final Fantasy 16 came out, everyone was debating whether it was really a Final Fantasy game. That's how you know it's a Final Fantasy game, because Final Fantasy fans are never fucking happy with. And I'm not a long-time Final Fantasy fan,
and I am.
But
and they did the same thing. They did the same exact thing with 12.
Yeah.
They did the same thing with 11. They did the same thing with 13. They did the same thing with 14.
Yeah.
15. 16.
Yeah.
16 was like all this action. What's this? Devil May Cry. 15 was like, who are these boy bands? Was this Backstreet Boys? 13 was like, this is so linear. 12 was like, this is not my turn-based system. What is this? This is like a little map thing you walk. You ever played? You've ever played 12? Anyway, 11 and 14 are MMOs. So they're like, this is not my Final Fantasy. So yeah, the point is, people are never happy. I think people have I'm not saying they're invalid. I think that's fine. If that's not what you like, then no worries. If you don't like the game, no problem. Some people really don't like this game, and that's fine. My issue is only with people that are the whole DEI political bullshit. This game is barely. I played it for 6 hours. I don't see anything that's political, other than like a lot of female characters, or I didn't even I don't even think about, because it's like there's nothing.
Yeah, who cares?
It's not saying like we gotta kill all the men. Feminism rules. Like there's no.
Oh, Solus is a male elf, so there you go. We gotta kill all the men.
He's a
obviously.
He's a white elf.
He's a white elf.
Like there's nothing. There's nothing there. People are creating.
Yeah. No, it's stupid, and you're going to fucking complain about a BioWare game being woke? That is the stupidest shit I've ever heard. BioWare literally has been woke, quote unquote, for as long as BioWare has been a goddamn company. Like they were some of the pioneers of having gay relationships, having even bi relationships. I mean, hell, you can almost be poly in the first Mass Effect. You can't, but you almost can.
This is 2009, 2010.
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing that bothers me about expectations for this game, people are comparing Origins and Dragon Age 2 to this game, but that's when BioWare was at its peak. You're comparing a completely different industry, a completely different company that was at the height of its power, to now an industry where we have constant layoffs, constant companies getting shut down, and BioWare is arguably the weakest it's ever been, either culturally or structurally. So it's just like you can't fairly compare these things.
Yeah.
I understand being disappointed, and like Seb says, if you don't like the game, I'm not saying you can't like the game, but I think so far for me, it's a really great game. Do I have problems with it? Yes, I have problems with it. But I have problems with Dragon Age 2. I even have a couple of like small issues with Origins. It's still an incredible game, but I had like little small issues here and there. I have some small issues with Inquisition. Like I don't know. It to me, the Dragon Age series is very consistent about being great or better than great, and this is just continuing that trend. Because for me, at least as far in as Inquisition as I got, I thought it was like a 4.5. I love it. I think they do open world really well. I know open world was very divisive for Dragon Age fans, like every fucking other thing is.
Yeah.
But, they listened to the feedback. They tried to improve it. I think obviously that had mixed results because maybe they went a little too far in the other direction. But I really like the mission structure of Dragon Age Veilguard to get back on track. Like, I think it's really fun. I do have some problems with the pacing. For example, there's an early mission in Treviso where you are meeting the crows, and specifically, you get to meet them within 5 seconds, and you've met their leader, and she's got like 2 people next to her who are related, and that's it for bodyguards. At least that's what it looks like in the cutscene. And it just kind of blows my mind because it's like the crows are like, I know, in the game, Treviso is under occupation, so the crows aren't as powerful as they usually are. But it still kind of blows my mind that, I mean, I have no credentials. I have some credentials as the Shadow Dragons, which, by the way, is a really cool fucking faction. I almost picked the crows, so that would have actually helped. But I went with the Shadow Dragons because they've never been mentioned before, and obviously freeing slaves rules. It was a slam, and fighting oppressive, corrupt politicians. I mean, that's completely in my wheelhouse politically. So obviously, I'm all for it. It's also just a cool name, and it just makes sense for rogues. But it's just like, I think even the IGN reviewer who gave it like a 9 or something pointed this out. Within like 5 minutes, you've gone from Treviso to meeting the head of the crows to underwater prison. And it's just like that. And there's just not enough justification for why the crows are trusting you this much. I know you have some context through Nev, who is, a good private detective, but that's something that really jumped out at me because I was like, we shouldn't be given this access. Like, they should at least be giving us a quest to earn their trust, and then like maybe we can talk to her, after a quest or two. It just felt really sudden. It's not a huge deal, but while I do generally like that the missions are so linear and they are very structured and fast paced, I like that about the game. I think that's refreshing, and it's not like Dragon Age 2 where every mission is very linear and not quite as fast paced, but a little more fast paced than Dragon Age Origins. But they recycle environments time and time again. Here in this game, beautiful environment after beautiful environment after beautiful environment. So I don't mind it as much that the missions are shorter and they're narrower. I mean, Seb and I have been on record about this multiple times. I love, single player, narrow, linear stuff. I'm not saying like I don't want to be railroaded necessarily.
Yeah.
And there's nice like trinkets and stuff to the side that you can get in treasure chests. I always feel rewarded for, not like hugely rewarded, but like I always feel rewarded for going off the beaten path, looking for some treasure, looking for an extra quest, et cetera, et cetera. So I guess my point here is like, there's some positives and there's some negatives to this approach. I think mostly it's a positive, and I like it, but there are definitely some aspects where it feels rushed. It feels like the writing can't support the breakneck speed that the game wants to go, and that's a shame, but it's not a deal breaker.
Yeah, I think it's a reaction to Inquisition, the criticism of Inquisition in the beginning, where things feel draggy and stuff. I like it because it seems. I agree with. There's definitely some times where it feels like that, but I like it because it feels like I can just put the game on, play for an hour, and have like a nice adventure, like, and then because I work full time and stuff, so it's like I get a cool mission experience for like an hour or so, and then I can put it down, that kind of thing. So I feel like this game is made that way, where it's made for like a general audience, like a very streamlined. I think it's the best way to describe this game. It's not for like the big hardcore Dragon Age fan. Like, I'm not saying the hardcore fans can't like it. I'm just saying it's definitely meant for like a general audience. Like anyone can play it. You know what I mean? there's some story elements where like you might not know what's going on or who the characters are, but I feel like even then it's very straightforward. You pick up on who's who pretty easily, so I don't mind that personally. I
think
like
the
the
funny,
shorter missions.
yeah, I'm sorry. I think the funniest thing about it is I haven't finished Inquisition. Now I already knew Solus was the bad guy, and so I had already been spoiled on that. So whatever. But this game mercilessly spoils Inquisition for you in terms of like what happens and how exactly it happens, and I don't know. I just thought that was kind of funny as somebody who I don't know exactly how many hours I am in Inquisition, but as someone who has not finished it, it was pretty funny to be like, yeah, this happens and that happens and that happens. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool.
I guess it's okay because it's been 10 years, so I guess that's.
I know it has, and it has. I'm not mad. It's been 10 years, like you said, and it's more my fault than the game's fault. I'm not gonna, I elected to play the sequel, but yeah, I mean, it does kind of suck, but it's not, it's not a big deal. But I just thought it was more funny.
Sure. Is it weird that this game is like a direct sequel, or should it have been its own thing? Or does it really matter?
I even think saying it's a direct sequel is kind of strong. I'm not disagreeing.
It's a sequel, like the same characters, is what I'm saying.
Sure. I mean, I'm fine with it, I guess. I don't really have a hot take on that. I'm pretty new to the fandom. And so, I wasn't too up in arms about it being a sequel or not a sequel. I know some people are disappointed. Hawk doesn't get much of a mention. I actually just got Varric mentioning Hawk for the first time, like 6 hours in. I don't really care, honestly. It doesn't bother me if it's not super. It's nice to see the references. It's nice to see the lore drops. It's, all of this is for me, it's like flavoring. It's like seasoning. It's nice to have, but it doesn't win me over necessarily. I know for some Dragon Age fans, it's a must. You've got to respect my time. You've got to respect my choices. Guys, that BioWare is long gone. The times of not emulating, but uploading Mass Effect 2 choices into Mass Effect 3. Yeah. I mean, even Inquisition barely had, a Dragon Age 2 choices, and that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, considering the reputation of EA closing studios and BioWare's screw up with Anthem, it's a miracle they're even still around. Never mind.
Exactly.
But all right. So, do you have any more negatives or positives?
Quick couple things. Let's see. Positives. Music is lovely and atmospheric. I do feel, here's the last thing I'll say, because I don't have much else. Yep. I do feel like in the long run, maybe combat could get repetitive. I haven't felt like that lately, but, I had that problem in Visions of Mana where after like 30 hours, I was like, okay, guys, like it's time to wrap it up. But that was more of a story pacing issue, and I still did like the combat. Yep. But as you said, there are some wild combos that you can do late game. I mean, I played 70 hours in Metaphor ReFantazio. I never got. Oh fuck! I didn't talk about Metaphor. I should talk about Metaphor for a quick second. But yeah. I never got tired in that game. But yeah, I do want to talk about Metaphor real quick, just for like a second. I know this is breaking our little order here, but I totally forgot to mention it. So I did beat Metaphor. Incredible game. That last boss fucking sucks. I had to bring it all the way down to Storyteller, where you literally can't die, like you get to revive. It was so I was like, I felt like Vegeta. I was like, no, I'm not dead, but my pride is dead. The problem really was that I was underleveled to hell, and I didn't realize it until it's much too late. I beat, there are, of course, it's a JRPG. I don't think this is a spoiler to say the final boss has multiple phases. I feel like that's saying 2 + 2 = 4. But regardless, I beat that first phase easy, first try. I beat the second boss easy, first try. Third phase or third boss or whatever you want to call them, fucking slaughtered me. I couldn't keep up. And at that point, and this is my fault, this isn't the game's fault necessarily, I didn't make a backup save. I had previously, but I had overridden it either accidentally or without thinking about it. And so I would have lost like 5 or 6 hours if I had just undone the boss fight. So I was like, fuck that. So I was very upset. I lost a lot, and I lost a lot of patience. And so eventually I put it down to easy. I got a lot closer, but I still couldn't do it. I was like, fuck it, we're going storyteller.
Yep.
So storyteller, you literally, like I said, you can't die. You do die, but when your party wipes, you can just revive everybody. So still an incredible game. I'm not going to blame the game too much for that because I knew that the last boss was going to be tough. I should have grinded a little bit, and I should have looked up what level he was, because much higher than me. And I was like upper 60s, lower 70s. So I felt like I was pretty good, but ended up that I wasn't. So yeah, I mean, I've said this in a previous podcast. Every game is allowed one. I said this about Silent Hill too, but every it wasn't even a bad boss fight, but every game's allowed, one fucking boss fight that I don't like, without it impacting too much. I still think Metaphor ReFantazio, incredible game.
Yeah.
One of my games of the year. I have too many problems with it for it to beat Infinite Wealth, but I couldn't recommend it anymore, really. Just make sure you do some grinding late game, because if you are not prepared, you are going to be like me and losing all that gamer pride. So that's my brief digression about Metaphor ReFantazio.
Did you now you're ready to play some Persona games, to join the Persona fandom, because if you love this game, you're really gonna love those games as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to play. I like the calendar system. Did you see that fucking stupid article where someone was like, "This is why Persona needs to get rid of the calendar system," or some bullshit? I'm glad you didn't see it. Or it said like Metaphor proves why the Persona series needs to get rid of the calendar system. Somebody literally quote tweeted it and said, "Just play Megami Tensei." like that's right. Like that doesn't, I guess, I don't even know, but apparently that doesn't have the calendar system, but it's still the same people, which that part I knew. But yeah, I'm super excited to play Persona 5 Royale, or Golden, or whatever the fuck it's called. And I'm really excited to play 3 Reloaded, and maybe 4. I don't know.
Yeah, I would start with Persona 5 Royale.
Yes,
because that's the most popular one, the mainstream one.
That's the one I was gonna do. I wasn't gonna start with like P4 or even P3 Reloaded. I wasn't gonna do any of that. But yeah, I am excited to play it at some point. Probably not till next year, maybe.
Yeah, and that the whole point of the Persona games is balancing like your real life stuff, like hanging out with your friends, reading a book, eating something, going to the movies, and the supernatural stuff, and the fighting, capturing the personas.
Yeah, and I really like that cycle in this game. As an autistic person, especially, I appreciated that everything was very structured, and I knew basically what I was going to do every day. Like, to me, that was kind of comforting. There were some times, I talked about this last podcast, where I felt like I just didn't have enough to do. But that was also like literally the last few days of the game. And I quickly, obviously, had more stuff to do because the end of the game was happening.
It feels like home for me as a teacher. My whole life's a calendar and planning,
right,
and a lesson plan and all that stuff. So and literally every Persona game takes place at school. That's why Metaphor was a big difference. Was that it was more fantasy based,
yes,
but like this Persona is straight up high schooler and Japanese school that experiences something supernatural or whatever. Also, all the Persona games have animes, so once you beat the game, you should watch the anime on Crunchyroll.
Man, this really made me wish that Metaphor ReFantazio had an anime.
It probably will, or if
it probably will. The animation is so gorgeous, and I already knew that Atlas had made animes for Persona. I was already aware of that, so I knew that they had those skills. But I was I was blown away.
I haven't fully watched Persona 5, but I think people don't like the anime as much, the game. Like, I feel like they find it disappointing.
Sure.
Because I think from what I saw, the animation was a bit stiff and stuff. Especially since a lot of modern anime today is like, wow, like the animation's incredible. Like watch modern One Piece, for example. It's like, what the hell? Why is this so good? Anyway, not to go off track. So, that's our show, I guess, right? Because I don't have anything more to add about Dragon Age, and I'll keep playing it. So good. The good thing about me is I get Thanksgiving break, a whole week off in 2 weeks, so I'll have all week to hopefully, if not beat Metaphor and Dragon Age, at least like get very close to finishing both games, and that
I'm so excited for you to beat Metaphor. It's so awesome. I loved it.
yeah, I'm gonna balance the two of them because I really want to get through Metaphor. Everybody keeps praising it, and I just haven't had the time. But
Yeah,
now that everything's all wrapped up and things are winding down, I can start really putting serious hours into it.
for
I just
sure.
have a bad I have a bad like issue with killing time too much where like I'm doing something else. Like I'm editing a video, I'm reading something, and all of a sudden I kill 5 hours and then I realize it's 11 o'clock at night and it's too late for me to play a game. And like a Metaphor is not a game you can just like play for 30 minutes, really. So
Yeah,
I have to find a way to get through because I want to beat that game really bad. So I'm gonna balance the two of them, and hopefully I can get them beat by the end of the month. That's my goal, and I think I can do it. I've done a lot more with less time. So anyway,
yeah.
so that's our show. Thanks for watching, everybody, and you all have a good night. Take care.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. Take care of yourselves.